Right, we are going to be looking at converting decimals into fractions. I have started by drawing my own place value grids. I would recommend strongly, especially at the start, that you draw your own or that you print one of the two place value grids that I've shown you earlier in the PowerPoint, or if you have one of your own at home, then that's fantastic as well. Okay, for my place value grid, I have drawn in the ones, so the whole numbers here. I've got my decimal points, my tenths, also written as a decimal, 0.1, also written as a fraction, 1 over 10. That all means the same, it's just different names for the same thing. Okay, my hundredths, or 0.01, or 1 over 100, 100th, and my thousandths, okay, or 0.001, or 1 over 1000. Sorry, ignore my mistakes. This grid is super helpful for putting decimals into fractions because it tells you the fraction that it's going to be. So we're going to work our way through a few examples and I'll talk as we do that. Okay, so my first decimal that I'm going to look at is 0.8. So I'm going to put it into my place value grid first of all. So I have 0 whole number, 0 ones, I've got my decimal point, and I've got 8 in the tenths column. Okay. Now once you do this, it's really easy to turn it into a fraction because you can see what there is. There's 0 wholes here, and there are 8 tenths. 8 tenths looks like this, or it can also look like this. 8 tenths, 8 over 10. Okay. We're actually saying it when we say the decimal. 8 tenths. Okay. So that can be written as 8 tenths. Where am I going to write it? I'm just going to write it up at the top of my page. Okay, for question number 1. So can you see that? Pull it down a bit. So 0.8 equals 8 tenths. Okay? Just like we have seen using a place value grid. Okay? I'll do another one, okay? Just with, so let's go for 0.5. Okay? 0.5, like this. Again, 0 in the ones, our decimal points all line up, and we have got 5 tenths this time. Okay, 5 tenths, it sounds like what it is. 0.5 equals the same as 5 tenths. Okay, so that's if you have numbers that are in the tenths place value place. Now, it gets a wee bit trickier when we go to the hundredths and the thousandths, but let's have a go at it. So, the next number we're going to look at is 0.45. Again, I'm going to write out my grid, 0.45. Okay. Now, the mistake that people make when they look at a number like this is there's something in the tenths place and there's something in the hundredths place. It's really important that you don't talk about the tenths. We need to focus on the hundredths. Okay? So you look at the smallest place value place, and that's the one that's really important to you. Okay? So what we've got here are 5 hundredths and 4 tenths. Well, 4 tenths is also the same as 40 hundredths. So we read this as if it is 45 hundredths, not 4 tenths and 5 hundredths. Okay, you're doing a bit of exchanging here. Okay, so 0.45 is the same as 45 hundredths. Okay, so that would be 45 over 100, like that. Okay, we'll look at a second example for that just now. So let's go for 0.32. Okay, 0.32 is our decimal. We want to turn it into a fraction. Okay, so again, we have got both tenths and hundredths. We need to look at the smallest place value place. That's one we're interested in. So we have 2 hundredths and we have 3 tenths. We know that we can change the tenths into hundredths. You can't try and change 2 hundredths into tenths. You haven't got enough of them. You need at least 10. Okay, but we have got 3 tenths. Now, 1 tenth is the same as 10 hundredths, so 2 tenths is the same as 20 hundredths, and 3 tenths is the same as 30 hundredths. So this 3 tenths is 30 hundredths as well. So together we have got 32 hundredths. Remember what a hundredth looks like? Well, that's what 1 hundredth looks like. So 32 hundredths will look like this. 0.32, our decimal, is 32 hundredths. Okay. Right, we're going to move on to look at another example, and this time the thousandths will come into play. So our next number is 0.123. And see, when I'm writing it down, I'm very careful with getting everything in the right place value place, okay? In my ones, there's still none of those just now. There are 0 ones. My tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. Okay, for this one, you're probably starting to catch on to what's going to happen, okay? We need to look at the smallest place value place, which is the thousandths. At the minute, there are 3 thousandths in the place value place here, which would look like, well, 3 over 1,000. But we also have got the hundredths and we've also got the tenths, and they're all part of the one number. So what we're going to have to do is turn our hundredths into thousandths and our tens into thousandths. Okay? Now there's a wee bit of a cheat for doing this. It can be that instead of trying to like really work your way through the whole exchanging thing, you can just read it as 123 thousandths. Okay? Because there's like 20 thousandths and 200ths, and there's 100 thousandths in 1/10. Okay, so I'm going to run out of space. I'm going to write my answer towards the bottom of the page. Okay, so 0.123 is the same as 123 thousandths. Okay, just like that. Okay. So 0.123 is the decimal, and 123 thousandths is our fraction. Just like that with our place value grid. Okay, we're going to look at 1 or 2 more examples. Okay, so the next number we're looking at is 0.29117. So I'm going to put a TT up here. That's for tens, or 10 thousandths. Okay, the next place value place down. Okay, same rule as before, and because it's 10 thousandths, it's like this. Okay, 10 thousandths. Okay, 10 thousandths. Okay, so the minute we've got 7 10 thousandths, but we've also got 1 thousandth, 9 hundredths, and 2 tenths. Okay, and like I said before, we can do lots of exchanging, but a little bit of the cheat is that, well, we know this is 7 10 thousandths, and then this is 17 10 thousandths, and then this is 917 10 thousandths, so this must be 2,917 10 thousandths. I'm going to write it so it's a little bit clearer. Okay, so, can I squeeze it up over this page? Okay, so 0.2917 equals 2,917 10 thousandths. Okay, just like that. So you don't actually need to do an awful lot of exchanging once you've learned this little cheat. And it's one of those things that once you know it, it becomes much easier. Now we're going to look at one final example, which is with a whole number. Okay, so the number I'm going to go for is 1.23. This changes things slightly because now we've got a whole number, but it doesn't really make it too much more difficult. Okay, this is 1, okay, or one whole number. It doesn't actually need to be involved in a fraction because luckily we've got mixed numbers. Okay, so this 1 will remain as a 1 whole, and then all we have to do is focus on the 23 hundredths. Okay, because our hundredth place value is our smallest one, and we've got 23 hundredths. Okay, so 1.23. The decimal is recorded as, well, 1 whole and 23 hundredths as our fraction. Okay, so important things to remember. Please use the place value grid, especially getting started. Remember to look at the smallest place value space, and that tells you what your fraction is going to be made up of, either of tenths or hundredths or thousandths or 10 thousandths. Okay, and the last step that I haven't looked at is remember to simplify your fraction afterwards. So I'm going to have a look at, see just this one here. Okay, so 0.8 equals 8 tenths. Well, just remember to simplify that 8 tenths at the end. Okay, so what can both parts be divided by? They can both be divided by 2, making it into 4 fifths. Okay, so if your fraction can be simplified, please do simplify them. So this, they can all be simplified down. Okay, so make sure that we're doing that. All right.